Salut et soyez bienvenus à une nouvelle présentation avec les prépositions, avec les expressions de temps. Our book is going to cover several of these separately, but we're going to bring them all together in one lovely happy thing. We're going to talk about the meaning of them, and we're going to start with un d'abord. So, un exprime la durée d'une action. So it's beginning and it's end. Well, how much time it takes to do something. So, il est venu à Montréal en janvier 2001. Okay, so in that time. Il est arrivé en hiver, in winter. Ce travail est facile, il se fait en 2 heures. So how much time it takes to do that thing. And I know you're thinking, I've heard un used in many ways, and it's true. It's a preposition like en 2018 en France, en métro, en avion, en train. So in 2018 in France, because of all countries that are feminine, we're going to use un. Also, is for en métro, en avion. So like if it's kind of this by way of if you're arriving in this cargo that you can go inside, you're going to use that. Une bague en argent, so a ring made out of silver. En colère or en forme, being angry or healthy. Each of these is an expression that uses en, but what we're going to talk about is how it's different from dans. Although dans and en both mean in, when regarding time, en means like in this amount of time. It's very specific. So this is our timeline here that we're on. Here we are in our present. And here is the duration. So technically, it could be a duration of present, future, past. It doesn't matter. So I can use un with the passé, with the future, with the present, because it's no matter no matter when, it's going to take me that amount of time to do the action. Similarly, so if I say, je te raconte l'histoire en 5 minutes, means it's going to take me 5 minutes to tell you the story. It does not mean that in 5 minutes I'm going to tell you the story, because that's a different in, and that would be dans. And although I like to think of un as this abstract un, because it seems to have more of an abstract meaning, and dans has this more physical, like inside of the box, like the cat, meaning dans is going to help us because it's that in that 5 minutes between now and the future event that is going to take place. Because although dans does have an expression that's less abstract, dans les années 60. Ooh, typo, we need an E here. So in the 60s, but it's mostly that physical, like dans une très belle maison, inside of that beautiful house, and of course dans la boîte, il y a un chat adorable. So dans exprime le début d'une action. And what that means is it's telling us when the action will begin. Or when whatever it is that we're talking about. So j'arrive dans 5 minutes. It's in 5 minutes I'll be there. Not it takes me 5 minutes to get there. As we mentioned with that telling of this story. So it's very interesting. If my husband were to tell me j'arrive à la maison en 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, well, it takes you 10 minutes to get home. Is it really going to take you 10 minutes? Like, are you coming home in 10 minutes? Because that would be j'arrive à la maison dans 5 minutes. Because again, un is this how long it takes to do something, whereas dans is that the action will commence, or whatever it is that you're going for will start at that. So dans and un are very interesting, but there are several more that we're going to look at. We're going to look at depuis, pendant, pour, et il y a, because they're all very interesting, and a lot of textbooks cover them, and they cover them kind of together. So instead of separating them as much in the book, I'm going to kind of put them together for you. And I feel like pour should be done first because it doesn't remind me that much of an expression of time as the others do, because it's how do I explain this? So normally we're used to using it as in order to, or that for as in like, oh yeah, I'm gonna read this book in order to get my kids to fall asleep, right? Je lis pour faire endormir les enfants. It's also for goals and deadlines, like je dois l'écrire pour le 18, so it's due on the 18th. Now, when it means for as in what we're trying to use with time, other than deadlines, it's mostly used with things like traveling, like I'm going to go there, I'm going to leave there. it's telling that time, the amount of time that you're going to be doing that action for, which is good in the sense of we can use it in the present, the future, and the past. It doesn't matter because it's for that amount of time that you're going to be going, leaving, coming, visiting, those kinds of activities. Whereas depuis is a different sense because depuis is a début d'une action prolongée qui dure. Et puis ça continue. So j'habite à Montréal depuis 10 ans. That means I'm still living in Montreal. Elle attend son ami depuis 1 heure, so she's still waiting. Ce professeur enseigne au collège depuis 1970. So again, these are still occurring, unlike where pour was at set amount of time. Depuis talks about the point where it starts and then it continues. So stores will be open since a time, actions or things with consumption start, and they still continue. You still use all of those. And here's some examples of other uses and how I can use other things in the same sense as depuis, because it does mean since. So I can say, j'étudie le français depuis 2002. I know, it's a long time to have started studying French. But I can also say, j'étudie le français, ça fait, or il y a 16 ans. So here we have, I've been studying since 2002. And here I've been studying, notice it's been 16 years. So il y a, ça fait can have this, it's been. Je suis prof depuis que j'ai reçu mon diplôme. I know. Depuis should be used with a present tense verb because it continues through the present like we talked about. I've been studying since 2002. I haven't been the best student the whole time, but I'm still learning, something every once in a while. So that action should be in the present. But here we have a past. Let's look at that. J'ai reçu mon diplôme, and that's this point here. And the je suis prof is the one that continues to the present. So the thing that's the depuis connected to will have to stay in the present. Similarly, tu as l'air mieux depuis que tu as vu le médecin. You saw the doctor, and then you continue to do better. So that's the part with depuis attached, and it's in the present. So if we want to use something that's not depuis, we want to use il y a. We have j'étudie le français il y a 16 ans, or ça fait 16 ans as we mentioned before. You can also say ago, and so it's not just that's made so much time, which you can replace with depuis, but you can say the sense of ago. And unlike English, instead of saying 4 years ago, they say ago 4 years. And il y a, this thing that we know of as there is, becomes this ago, which is really fun. So it's like saying ago 4 years, I bought this house, instead of il y a 4 ans que j'ai acheté cette maison. Similarly with ça fait. And then we're talking about this point of action when we're using il y a in the, notice the passé composé or past tense. If I use it in the present, it's been more like it's been that amount of time, and so we're still talking about this present continuing on, which is fun. All right, so let's discuter pendant, because this one is fun. There used to be a word called durant that we used a little bit, because it's about a duration complète, so the during. It's not used as often, and we also have an expression pendant ce temps, which means meanwhile, or pendant, which we'll talk about another time. So let's talk about what pendant means. It's this action in the past or future, which we'll talk about in a sec, that is closed, right? It's a completed action. Remember how we talked about that with pour? That's that completed action as well. But here we can only have in the past because it's during that time. So nous avons visité nos parents pendant 7 jours. We visited them for 7 days. It's over. We're back home. We're no longer visiting them. Pendant que tu jouais ton Xbox, while you were playing your Xbox, j'ai dû travailler, nettoyer la maison. I had to clean and work. And both of those things are done. They're boxed up, okay, in the past. But notice this next one here. Il va visiter avec sa grand-mère pendant l'été. So he's going to visit, and then we can have it in the future. The only thing is you can't have it in the present. So if you want more of that present sense, you might want to choose something like, if you're traveling, you're planning to travel now, it's for so many days present, you'll use pour. But if it's something that's still continuing on, it's still occurring right now, you couldn't say, for example, like, I'm studying I've been studying 2 hours, and you're still studying, not with pendant. That would be your sense, right? So, nous avons étudié pendant 2 heures. That means we studied for 2 hours. We're done studying. But if I then change the studying, instead of pendant being past, it's done, or will study in the future being a block time, I can say, j'étudie depuis 5 jours, and I have that sense that it continues on, right? So, c'est super, c'est vachement intéressant. Let's do a quick review of the ones that I think you're going to really enjoy. Depuis has that sense of, starting in the past, continuing. Pendant, blocked in amount of time. Pour is a blocked amount of time as well. It can be, past, present, future. But again, it's only really used mostly for that travel or deadlines. And then, of course, we talked about un and dans, and being also a blocked amount of time that it takes to do something, and lots of abstract meanings. Whereas dans is either this physical inside, or how long it's going to take me before I do that actual thing. I actually do it. Not how long it takes me to do it normally, but when it will occur. Bon, j'espère que ça vous aide. Si vous avez des questions, laisse-moi savoir.